Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin, and I'm the Director of Product Management at Unchained Labs. I will be your moderator, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. To ask questions, all you have to do is click on the Q&A button in the Zoom navigation bar, and then it'll be at either the top or the bottom of your screen. Type in your question. We'll try to get as many questions as we can after the presentation, but please don't submit your question anonymously. That'll allow us to follow up with you later. And now, if I may, I'd like to introduce Ben Knappett, product manager for Sunshine and the whole Sunny suite of nanoparticle production instruments. Today, Ben will take us through how Sunshine supports the full nanomedicine development journey for a range of particle material types and cover its fit-for-purpose software, options for low and high-volume particle production. And for the first time, he'll tell us about Sunshine's upgradable instrument setups. He'll introduce new flavors of Sunshine with Sunshine Lite and Sunshine Single, and which needs they're best suited for. And now I'll hand it over to Ben. Ben, are you excited to crush nanoparticle prep today?
Always, always. Happy to help everyone else figure out the way to do that too.
All right,
Fantastic.
take it away.
All right, I'm going to share my slides. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. So I'm going to tell you today about, as Kevin said, Sunshine's latest upgradable configurations and how they can help you crush nanoparticle prep at every step. So to start with, the process for making a nanoparticle is similar in a number of different ways to baking. The recipe and the baking conditions give rise to an amazing range of possible outcomes, depending on what your application or need is. And if you want consistent results every time, then you have to keep your recipe and your process dialed in. But there's also a lot of different reasons that you might bake a cake that can lead to different needs from your equipment. So maybe you're baking a special birthday cake and you want the range of baking options and control of your home oven. Maybe it's a lazy Sunday and you want one of those quick and simple coffee mug cakes that can be whipped up in the microwave. Or maybe you have a cake business that's growing and you're looking to move to manufacturing at scale, which might mean moving to a continuous baking process. Well, that's very similar to when you're looking to encapsulate therapeutic payloads into nanoparticles during the development of nanomedicines. So those initial stages of the workflow involve the development and performance screening of both the therapeutic payload, which typically nucleic acids such as RNA or DNA, and subsequently the nanoparticle formulation itself, which is often a mixture of lipids and polymers. As you work through that workflow from early stages of screening, optimizing your formulation, and then ultimately producing larger volumes, you also need to look to move in towards clinical trials and commercial settings, which bring GMP into the mix. And the specific nanoparticle synthesis needs of someone looking to quickly encapsulate their latest and greatest payload candidate are different to those from somebody who might be looking to screen formulations to find the perfect nanoparticle delivery vehicle to target a particular cell or tissue type. Or indeed someone trying to do that last step of translating an existing small volume process into a continuous flow manufacturing method suitable for a GMP environment. But no matter the stage of development you're at, all researchers want high quality, consistent particles made quickly in a cost-effective way. And that's where Sunshine comes in. So Sunshine is the ultimate nanoparticle development tool, offering a range of different features to its users. All Sunshines offer automated nanoparticle development, allowing you to type in your settings for your process, have the instrument run your nanoparticle prep consistently every time and automatically collect based on the collection conditions that you as the user define. They also have fully reusable microfluidics, which I'll come on to in just a moment. That means you're not replacing the microfluidics every single time you run an experiment. And that's partly down to the fact that each system automatically washes the flow path and microfluidic chip in between every experiment in a run and at the end of every run. So the system's always left clean, ready for you to pick up and run your next formulations. We now offer options that from 400 microliters of total prep, 3:1 mixing ratio, all the way up to continuous flow capabilities. And with each of these instruments, the process technology that we're using to produce the particles has a direct route and translation into a GMP environment with our Sunbather instrument. So here are those microfluidic sunnies, and they are in a range of different sizes, geometries, and mixer types. So we have a few different examples shown here. There are actually 9 in total, and these are made in our clean room in the UK out of glass using a precision wet etching lithography technique that allows incredibly smooth channel walls and cylindrical channel geometries. And we're able to offer a range of different mixing geometries such as reverse angle mixing, cross-type mixing, or T mixing. And for some of those geometries, like the cross and T's, we also offer them in different sizes. So you can have different channel widths that allow you another lever to control things like nanoparticle size. These are highly chemically resistant, so you can use them with a range of different chemicals and materials, solvents types. They are fully reusable with no upper limit on how many times you can run them, and they are automatically cleaned in place by the instrument. And here's what it looks like when the Sunshine runs an experiment. We can see here, in this case, fluorescein dye running through the microfluidic chip, being pushed by the driving fluids that the system uses to transport your small volumes of reagent through the system, bringing them together with your reagents on the mixing chip geometry and collecting them at the outlet. In between each experiment, the system's going to clean that flow path before running the next aliquot of reagent through the system. And using Sunshine, you can focus in on the particle properties that you care about. You can tune in particle size, maximize encapsulation efficiency, minimize PDI, and then ultimately test for peak performance with in vitro and in vivo tests. With the ability to complete up to 10 experiments in as little than 15 minutes, you can sail through that process development phase, or indeed the optimization of a new nanoparticle type, like a polymer or liposome nanoparticle. And you can see here on the slide we have triplicate experiments run at 4 different flow rates. And these flow rates were queued up in our experimental table in the software, with 4 experiments being run in a single automated experiment, and we repeated that 3 times to show you the high level of consistency we get between runs when repeating experiments, and to show the nice control of size range we get here with this particular formulation between around 130 nanometers down to around 65 nanometers. And now with new Stunner AF add fluorescence, you can tick off your sizing and PDI, your particle quantification, payload quantification, and now encapsulation efficiency in a single automated run, which is an awful lot of data to collect quickly in an automated manner while you're able to then continue running experiments as well. The features don't stop there. Sunshine can also scale up for you. We have continuous mode capabilities, so the system pumps can be set pumping at a continuous flow rate that matches the flow conditions that you were exploring in your small volume automated runs. And using those same total flow rates, flow rate ratios, and dilution settings that you dialed in, we're able to then produce anywhere from milliliters to liters of sample from a single instrument. The data here shows the production of 45 milliliters of sample, produced in that continuous mode, and when we aliquoted it, you can see that we get really nice consistent results from our particles in terms of size and PDI, and when aliquots are combined, we have 3 really reproducible samples to move forward with. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this presentation, depending on where you're at in your nanomedicine development workflow, you might have different needs from your equipment. Not everybody wants the same flavor. So I'm really excited to introduce the latest flavors of Sunshine. So we now have 3 Sunshines. So Sunshine Single gives you an ability to generate single nanoparticle encapsulated payloads pronto, with minimum fuss and maximum ease of use. Sunshine Lite gives you the multiple experiment automation. So with each experiment, you can run several different flow conditions, flow rate ratios, or collection conditions to quickly identify the ideal flow conditions for optimal particle synthesis. And with full Sunshine, we add in inline dilution as well, allowing you to then optimize your formulation further for towards the manufacturing process, which is typically necessary if you are looking to move forward to producing significant quantities of particles in continuous flow, as the inline dilution will help to stabilize those particles, both by reducing the ethanol concentration in the collected sample, as well as being able to correct the pH too. And for those who fancy adding a second scoop later down the line, You can add what you need when you need it with Sunshine. So you're able to upgrade from Sunshine Single to Sunshine Lite, adding in multi-experiment automation to the mix. And if you want to then add in inline dilution, you can further upgrade to Sunshine. There's also an upgrade route directly from Sunshine Single all the way through to Sunshine. So you can really have whatever solution you need at any given point in time for where you're at with your nanoparticle synthesis. Without worrying about having to replace the entire instrument later down the line, you can upgrade and add features when you need them. So to just go back through those features, we'll look at Sunshine Lite and Sunshine first. They share the same software, so they're a little more related. So both of those allow 10 experiments in 15 minutes with our quick and easy automation by adding a series of different distinct flow parameters and collection conditions. The automated collector on the top right of the instrument there will move the collection needle above different vials in order to collect different samples with different mixing conditions. We have the ability to go from 1 milliliter up to continuous flow under our sort of typical synthesis conditions. So anywhere from small volumes up to liters of production. And we still have to take advantage of our reusable microfluidic Sunnies, which are compatible with all of the instruments in the Sunny Suite family. With Sunshine, we add in that inline dilution. So we have an extra pump there, which allows us to dose a diluent of choice into the flow path after making our nanoparticles. Again, that can be used to just help stabilize particles when you're really optimizing a process ahead of manufacturing. Both of those setups use our Sunny Suite software, which comes with a super convenient spreadsheet that you use to plan your experiments by setting up your hardware initially, typing into a pre-validated table your collection conditions, your flow rate ratios, and total volume requirements. You can see there that our validation calculation is going to check before you get down to your lab PC that everything is working correctly and going to run effectively. And then we simply import that into our software and hit run. It's as simple as that, and then your experiments will be served up while you wait. With Sunshine Single, we keep it simple. It runs a single experiment using the same pump technology and same microfluidic mixing, but with the Sunshine Single software, we're able to have our RNA or cargo encapsulated within less than 5 minutes for running a single experiment. The instrument has plug and play operation with a super simple guided software interface and allows you to use up to 6.3 milliliters of sample or down to 0.4 milliliters. The reason it can go to slightly lower volumes is because the smaller nature of the instrument means a shorter flow path, which means we're flowing the fluids less distance, so we can work with those small volumes more effectively. And here's a sneak peek at that simple software. We have a nice, easy walkthrough wizard where you can simply click on the button just to say what you want to do, and the software is going to take you through step by step, setting up your experiment, preparing the instrument, and gives you a run monitor to observe while you run your experiment. You also have the ability to rerun completed experiments. So if you're doing a few similar experiments and you want to quickly run again, you can simply click completed runs, run again, and before you know it, you're making another formulation. With each of these configurations, by using the same pumping technology and the same mixing, we get the same quality particles. So we can see with our Sunny 190X that's been used to make these formulations here, as we move into the sort of optimal synthesis range of that chip between 6 and 12 milliliters a minute, we get really consistent particles formed with very, very tight error bars, and all PDIs being below 0.1 in that range, with all PDIs across the full flow rate range being well below 0.2. And again, we have size control from between around 150, 160 nanometers down to around 70 nanometers with this particular formulation and particular mix chip. And if you're looking for something that's slightly outside of that range, that's a great opportunity to try out one of our other mixer chips with either a smaller or larger mixing geometry. The encapsulation efficiency you get from all of those experiments is pretty tough to beat. These were measured at 98% for all experiments, greater than 98%. And in fact, for every experiment above 4 milliliters a minute, we saw greater than 99% encapsulation efficiency. So the mixing process and the particle formation happening in these microfluidic Sunnies is incredibly efficient at encapsulating RNA. And as mentioned, we can now run down to 400 microliter samples. So this is data from Sunshine Single showing experiments that we've run at either 1000 microliters, 600 microliters, or 400 microliters of collection. And the green bars show the data we get when we include a small 100 microliter head and tail cup, at which point the size is completely identical, no matter what volume you use. If you choose not to use the head and tail cut and collect more of your total sample volume, there is a very slight increase in size, but the particle quality in terms of PDI and size remains incredibly good. And the systems can make polymers and liposomes too. So the graph on the left shows an example of some polymer nanoparticles, which were made using acetone as a driving fluid, and comparing the difference between making them with PLGA or pegylated PLGA. And you can see that, again, similarly, as we move between different flow rates of the instrument, we see an ability to control size of the particles. The lower the flow rate, the larger the particle size, and the higher the flow rate, the smaller the particle size. As we add the pegylated lipid, you can see that steric hindrance from the peg is bringing the size down much more rapidly. So for a similar set of conditions, by making that formulation adjustment, we can also target lower sizes, introducing those pegylated groups. They'll also help with stabilizing the particle in solution for longer as well. On the right-hand side, you can see a similar set of experiments where we are comparing different flow rate ratios this time for DPPC cholesterol liposomes. And so with these liposome formulations, you can see that depending on the exact flow rate ratios used, we can identify optimum balances to find the best results for PDI and for particle size. But again, the same trends typically apply as we increase the flow rate ratio here by adding more aqueous solution and crashing our particles out more rapidly. We're generating smaller sizes. So there really is a flavor for everybody with Sunshine now. So this table just shows you a quick comparison of the different features offered by those instruments. Again, they all benefit from the same consistent pumping technology and microfluidic mixing. So you can use all of the Sunnies with all of the instruments. If you're using an instrument that doesn't have inline dilution and you're using a Sunny that does have inline dilution, our tubing kits come with a pack of tubing plugs that you can just use to plug up the dilution port so that it doesn't get used. All of our experiments offer automated experimentation and automated cleaning. We offer multiple experiments with the Sunshine and Sunshine Lite packages, as well as adding in continuous flow to the mix. And then if you want the full shebang with inline dilution as well, with full capability set, Sunshine has inline dilution too. And Sunshine instruments are part of the wider Sunny Suite family as well. So add into the mix the ability to do 96 well plate based formulation screening with sunscreen. And that can apply both to screening payloads at early stages of identifying suitable payload constructs, or for formulation screening of the nanoparticles in order to identify that delivery vehicle and optimize the targeting effect of the particles. Sunshine then brings the flavors we've just discussed into the mix to try and optimize or discover novel particles, taking them through to a continuous flow process, which can be directly handed over to Sunbather when you're ready to move into GMP. So there's no fussy handover and re-optimization required when you take those steps into a GMP environment. And alongside the entirety of that process, we have Stunner AF, which allows you both your sizing and encapsulation efficiency measurements now on a single instrument for the first time. So with the same process, same mixing, and same particles, you really can trust the process for Sunny Suite going all the way from any of our instruments to any of our other instruments using the same flow conditions, same formulations, and the same Sunny. We get the same particle size and high quality particles with low PDI, no matter the instrument or volume range you're working at. So we really do have a flavor for anybody, and I will welcome any questions you might have about any of the instruments we've talked about today. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for taking us through using Sunshine to look at new nanoparticle production tools and how they can be suited to fit the first needs kind of day one nanoparticle production, and how they can scale up as science progresses and nanoparticle development progresses too. Some great questions have already been submitted by the audience, and you can still ask a question by entering it into the Q&A section of your Zoom navigation bar. So first question up here at the top, does Sunshine Lite still have continuous mode?
Yes, so Sunshine Lite does still have continuous mode. The feature that Sunshine Lite doesn't have compared to Sunshine is the inline dilution. So it's the pump, the second pump that you don't have. But those two pump channels that you do have, you can still set those in continuous flow mode and run larger volume samples with that instrument, yes.
Great. Can I upgrade straight from Sunshine Single to Sunshine, or do I have to upgrade to Sunshine Lite first?
Yeah, you can do either. So that sort of diagram I showed with the upgrade arrows highlighted the feature differences, but each of those is a route you can genuinely take. So if you want to go all the way from Sunshine Single to a full Sunshine, we have an upgrade path spec for that. Just let us know what you have right now and what you want to get to, and we can help you.
Okay. So here's a question from Charlotte, is asking for kind of a brief overview of how is the encapsulation efficiency metric measured, and does your payload need to be labeled to do something like that?
Yeah, so the encapsulation efficiency is measured on Stunner using a combination of the UV-Vis to measure the total RNA concentration and the newly added fluorescence measurement in order to quantify the free payload. So that allows you to calculate the difference between those two values along with a calibration curve that you set up on the plate via some easy instructions. And the system comes with a master mix that you can use, which simply needs ribogreen reagent adding to it and pipetting onto some of your samples, the ones that are getting the fluorescence measurements done. And the system's going to calculate encapsulation efficiency for you within the software.
No label needed, just a dye to stain. Yep. All right, so can I still use all of the different mixer chips on Sunshine, Single, and Lite?
Yes, you can. So the Sunshine Single and Sunshine Lite both come with our Sunny 190X, which is a great starting point with no inline dilution port, obviously with those two instruments not having the dilution pump. But if you want to apply any of our other mixing chips, including the ones that do have a dilution port, you absolutely can. As I mentioned, there is a packet of port plugs, and we can just block off the dilution channel if the Sunny has one we're not using. So yeah, you can still use all Sunnys with all configurations.
Okay. Then there's a couple of questions on materials. So I'll start. Are there any differences in the materials used in the Sunshine Single flow path?
No, so the changes are obviously the collector is a new collector, but we actually use the same valve on the collector as we on the simple single collector as we do on the automated collector for Sunshine Lite and Single. So in terms of the fluid flowing through the instrument, the wetted materials are identical.
Okay, great. And then what is the pH range for the instrument pump and the flow touching components? So question about pH range, probably especially in the context of LNPs.
Yeah, so typically LNP synthesis is being carried out somewhere between 3 and 5, pH 3 and 5, to have that acidic environment for the ionizable lipids to have their cationic charge. Now, also you might be considering a cleaning reagent that might be more acidic or basic, which you can also use and are compatible with our instrument if you want to use acids and bases to clean the system. You can typically use 1 molar sodium hydroxide or acid to clean the system, but we don't recommend long-term exposure, so simply clean it out afterwards by giving it a rinse through with water. And you can do that using our priming function on the instrument. You just click prime and it'll replace all the fluid in the system with water again.
Okay. And then what is the maximum flow rate?
So the maximum flow rate is 10 milliliters a minute per pump channel. So if you have Sunshine and you have the inline dilution as well, then you have 3 inputs contributing to your experiment, and you can do up to 30 milliliters a minute. Now that assumes a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio between those channels. If you're using Sunshine Single or Sunshine Lite without that dilution pump, then your maximum is going to be 20 milliliters a minute. Obviously, introducing your flow rate ratio will define your theoretical maximum flow rate.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. And then this question on minimum volumes. So is 1 milliliter the minimum sample volume for Sunshine?
So 1 milliliter remains the typical recommended volume to use for Sunshine and for Sunshine Lite. We have taken the guardrails off in the software to let people go down to those lower volumes if they wish, but we haven't changed anything about the instrument in terms of flow path lengths and things like that. So if you do push down to those really low volumes, you can probably expect a slightly lower retention of concentration or sample yield. But with Sunshine Single, we get really high performance from that low volume because of that shortened flow path. So that's more of a typical volume we would use with Sunshine Single.
Okay. Difference between typicals and minimums.
Yeah.
All right. So what types of organic solvents can be used in sunshine?
So because the wetted materials in the flow path are pretty chemically resistant, we can work with a range of different solvents. So there are no COC plastics and things like that that often have issues with slightly harsher solvents. So we can, as I mentioned, some of the data we showed in the presentation used acetone for our polymer nanoparticles. We're also able to use a number of other different solvent types, all sorts of different alcohols, methanol, ethanol. Yeah, if there's a particular solvent that you're interested in, we have a solvent compatibility chart, and I can happily share that with you. And also, all of our wetted materials are listed in our brochures in the spec sheet. So if you have a particular solvent you're interested in, you can always cross compare. But drop us a message first if you have a specific solvent in mind, because we might have it on a table already.
Right. So thanks for answering all those questions, Ben, and thanks again today for a great presentation. I also want to thank all of you who joined us live today. If you'd like to have a deeper conversation with our team, please do get in touch with us at info@unchainedlabs.com or through our website, unchainedlabs.com. We would love to connect and talk science with you. Thanks again for attending our virtual seminar, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, bye.